Hello? Oh, great. So, voice-enabled devices have captured our imagination for many years, for even decades. But so far, we have not seen widespread adoption of these interfaces. Maybe it was because technology was challenging. Maybe crowd was skeptical. In recent years, it seems like something had changed. So Black Friday 2017, Amazon reported that two of its voice-enabled devices were among the top 5 best-selling devices across all categories. So are we on the verge of a breakthrough? I have here great experts in this panel and thought leaders from the industry that will help us answer this question and a few more intriguing ones. So let's start by a short introduction. Maybe each one of you could just share with the crowd who you are and what you do in the context of chatbots and voice-enabled devices.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah, like so. Hello, I'm Kristina Katkute. I'm a digital psychologist at Green Orange, a digital consultancy agency in the Netherlands. Digital psychology is concerned about applying psychology knowledge to the creation of digital products, or in this case, conversational interfaces. A year ago, I conducted a research about user engagement with chatbots. So what are the factors in a conversation that increase user engagement with the chatbots? And what my research showed is that the chit-chat, the conversation, the small talk, has a large part in this user engagement. Along with that, I'm also created some sort of a model on how to create chatbot personality. So that's that voice of the bot from my perspective. And this model showed that chatbot personality could be created by adapting it to the user personality. And well, I would like to talk about that further today.
Great, so we'll talk about those things.
Hi, my name is Michal Raz. I'm out of San Francisco typically, but I came to this chatbot summit because it's an area that's very close to heart for us. Vonage acquired a company called Nexmo that is a communication API platform servicing many, many use cases, including Uber, Airbnb, Google, Amazon. We have many, over 400,000 developers on the platform. Specifically with chatbots, we become a channel, so we are SMS or voice or two-factor authentication. We get embedded into those environments to basically relieve their need to deal with the complexity of the communication world. And looking forward to this panel.
Hi everybody, my name is Markus Linder. I'm co-founder and CEO of SmartAssistant. Very excited to be in Tel Aviv here today. SmartAssistant is a technology for digital advice. So SmartAssistant basically does the job of a great salesperson, of a great service person, by helping you as a consumer to choose the right product, the right service, or identify a solution. So our customers are large brands like Microsoft or Canon, and our technology would, for example, help you to choose the right Canon printer. If you go to Canon's website in more than 50 countries and try to figure out which Canon printer or camera is the right one for you, SmartAssistant would engage with you, ask you a series of questions like, are you looking for a printer for your home or for, for your office? How many people are going to use it? So ask those kind of questions a salesperson would ask, and then it recommends the right products to you. And SmartAssistant is basically a software as a service platform that enables business users at brands, retailers, telcos, banks to create such kind of advices, which can then be used to engage with consumers in a click-based approach through a chatbot or through voice, so through a virtual assistant integration, for example. And obviously I'm very much looking forward to discuss the future of voice and chatbots here today.
Great.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I'm co-founder and CRO at Conversation.one. Conversation.one is a single hub for you to go and build, manage, and deploy your conversational solutions. We're voice focused, but we also provide our solution for chatbots. Basically, we're talking about a single platform where you can build once, deploy anywhere, any of your conversational solutions. You basically configure your business logic once, and we help you take it to the Amazon Alexa, the Google Home, Facebook Messenger bot, your own chat or voice bot, and recently we also extended our solution also into IVR system and messaging platforms. We launched our product towards the end of July 2017. We have a little bit over 1,500 developers that are now leveraging our platform. The first verticals that we started working with are financial institutions. We were recently recognized as the first platform on Amazon Alexa through which financial institutions can actually launch their Alexa skills. So I'm very excited about the panel today. As a company, we are advocating voice, as you can see on my t-shirt and probably some of my colleagues here below. We really see that voice is the present and the future of any communication, seeing it as a shift of paradigm, actually even a little bit more than just the chatbot. We really see the transition going into only voice interaction. And I hope we'll be able to learn some cool stuff today about what the future is waiting for us.
Great. So maybe a first interesting question to ask is, there are many types of interfaces. There are UIs, graphical UI, there is chatbots that we talk all around here, and then there are voice-enabled devices or interfaces. When would you say that voice interface is the best interface to use versus others? So maybe, Michal, you want to start? Yeah.
Sure. So it's really use case dependent, right? And if you are a field technician, right, and you want to do something well, getting advice from your assistant while you're doing the operation, it makes a lot of sense. For us, for example, there are, as company business employees in a company, if you want to send a company-wide notification, and some of the numbers you have in your backend LDAP are actually landlines, and you want to send a text-to-speech type message, that could be voice. So I think voice shouldn't be there is the business-to-consumer space, which is, all the devices that I think will take a little bit of time for mature bots to develop, and there is more of the business space to automate everyday tasks using both messaging and voice. I think voice, you need to take it to the environments that make, the use cases that make sense. It could be driver in taxi, it could be field technician, it could be text-to-speech.
What we see is that our large brand customers, what they want to do is they would like to engage with their consumers across all channels, across all touch points, however consumers want to engage with them. So they would like to be able to provide a consistent experience no matter whether you go to their website and try to find a solution for a problem that you have there, no matter whether you reach out to them through Facebook Messenger or you try to get support through Amazon Alexa. So what we see as a very big business need from our brand customers is that they would like to provide consistent engagement, and in our case advice, across all channels, across all touch points, however they want to engage. So we don't really see it as, everything will go towards voice only, because when I'm in a meeting and have a problem with a product, I want to be able to either chat with a brand, or I want to be able to go to the website to quickly help myself. So it will not be an either-or kind of solution, although I totally agree with you that in certain scenarios, voice will have, a bigger impact and will be more important than in others. But the general notion is that businesses need to provide all those different ways of engagement.
So maybe just if you could provide an example, you said that it's important to maintain consistency. Maybe you could provide an example of one of your customers that, a concrete example of how they did that or how it looks like.
I would like to give you one example of a very large retailer. That's our customer, and what we provide them with is advisors in, they use our technology to build advisors in many categories. Washing machine advisors, TV advisors, and also dog food advisors. So a dog food advisor would ask questions like, how old is your dog? Which breed is it? Does it have any concerns like sensitive skin, sensitive stomach? And then it recommends the right dog food. And what this customer is doing with our technology is giving you the same consistent advice no matter whether you engage with them on their retail website or you communicate with them through voice, through a virtual assistant integration. So if you provide the same answers, you get the same dog food recommended, no matter whether you communicate through the virtual assistant or by clicking through your advice on a website. That's what we mean with it.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that the content on the answers and the advice should be consistent. I'm wondering, and I'll ask maybe Rachel or Michal, based on your experience, past experience in the world of marketing, can you even maintain brand consistency across different interfaces for companies?
So I have to just say a few words about whether it's going to voice or not. So I think that there is a difference between what we're going to see in the next 2 to 3 years and what we're going to see in the future. I think that we are seeing a shift in paradigm. I don't think we're going to use a lot of our fingers very soon. I think we're going to do everything through voice. I agree that finding the right use cases now is very important because you don't want to force something that doesn't really make sense. But if we think of it, and I think it was shown very nicely also at the IBM presentation this morning, you're also in the US, so I guess I'm based also in the area of San Francisco. I have 4 Alexa devices, 2 Google Home devices, and those devices are the center of our life. So I wake up in the morning, it wakes me up, it tells me the weather, it tells me what's the situation of the traffic outside, it just plays music, you can take pictures with it, and you do a lot of things. And just think that it provides you with all of that information, and then you go to the car, and then you get your emails right up to you, you dictate your messages, you complete the payment of the bills that you forgot to do at home, and then you get to the office, and the Cortana maybe is telling you from your computer what are your pending assignments for today. I think that the whole idea of hands-free communication is going to decide for us, and again, it's all about convenience, whether we're going to continue and use our fingers to chat or to write, or we're just going to use, voice to interact with, with bots, right? I mean, and if you have a question about a product, the same way that you can text it, you could just say, I have a question about that product, and it's much easier for us. So I see it totally differently. I really see, and I do agree that for now brands, and that goes back to the question, have to make sure that they are consistent on all the different devices and platforms. I think we're kind of experiencing what we had also when mobile just started. Too many devices, too many channels. Most of the brands don't really know where to start and how to leverage it. I think we can all agree, and it was also discussed in this morning keynote, chatbots are not there yet. We don't think that they're so good, but we are in a process of making them so. But having said that, brands still need to make sure that if someone owns an Alexa or someone prefers to talk with them on a Facebook Messenger bot, or maybe someone still prefers to pick up the phone and get the information, they have to make sure that they're consistent there. And I think that this is a challenge that most of those brands have today. We try to solve it in building a build once, deploy anywhere. Other brands are trying to focus maybe on the on-one channel, but I think that very similar to mobile. If you decided you're going to have only a native iPhone app, you're not going to make it. So you'll have to make sure that you're everywhere. The same here. If you're just going to provide your solution just on Amazon Alexa, you're going to lose your audience on other channels and on other devices. And I think this is the first challenge that those brands have to face. The second one will also to make sure how they actually communicate with their clients. So building a contextual conversation, not a command line, right? Don't just tell me, but talk to me, make a conversation. Don't pretend maybe to be a human, but at least understand what I'm looking for. And I think that's going to be the greatest challenge today. And I think this is probably also the challenge for you as a smart assistant, and not just coming with recommendation, based on what you think is good for me, but understanding what are my true and real needs.
Okay, great. So you mentioned how in the States now voice-enabled devices are so prevalent, and you got used to them so much. I want to ask the crowd, and maybe get a little bit of a poll here. By a raise of hands, how many of you actually use voice-enabled devices at home? Okay, so not that many, right? So we do see that at least here in this crowd, which is mostly maybe from Israel, but also international or global, it's not that well adopted. Maybe, Kristina,
But
maybe
just
you
a
can...
question, does it also include the Google Assistant? You're not using the Google Assistant for searches, Siri? It doesn't have to be a device.
Yeah, we have Israeli accent for English, so it's... Kristina, maybe you can tell us what's inhibiting the adoption of bots today? What can we do to make widespread adoption of bots?
Yeah, I think that with majority of new technologies, instead of just creating technologies and seeing value in technology, well, per se, we should also look at the user side. So, of course, as a digital psychologist, I want to promote that to really switch your view onto users. And if you have a possibility to conduct research, to get in contact with them, do that, because this input is really valuable. What I mean by that is that when you are implementing voice interface, you have to look on your product, the context where it's being used, right? We can't really implement voice interfaces everywhere. Well, let's say that's an opinion, but you have to look at the context, right? So let's say if the voice interface is being used in a car, like that's a no-brainer, you would prefer voice. Meanwhile, if the chatbot, you're creating a chatbot that is being used, well, let's say in a meeting, you of course prepared, you expect it to be textual. So these are nuances, and how you get them is of course by you yourself thinking where this your specific product is going to be used, but also looking at the users. What I mean by that is also that you should look at the age, the generation. For example, in Europe, elderly are more concerned about new technology. They are not really that into trying things new, but that's also specific to the regions in Europe. So you see there are many nuances, and what I mean by that is instead of looking for the holy grail things, look at the users, look at the technology they're using now, at their expectations. If you can, conduct user research, market research, and really get their side. And when you have this whole complete view, then think about which interface is the best. Also possibilities that you might have a dual, right? The textual and speech infused one.
Okay, maybe Michal, you can also show us.
Yes, I want to comment on something Racheli said and something that you said. So I think part of the challenge of the chatbot space is we've been painting very broad strokes that every customer support will move to be bot-based and every sales discussion, and it's happening very slowly. And I think when saying that, Google is saying that by 2020, 30% of the internet search will be voice-based. So all these are kind of very broad strokes of how the world will move. But if you're trying to maintain your company business and make it viable for the next 3 years or you won't be around, we need to get pragmatic. And getting pragmatic is in my opinion, finding a very specific domain-specific use case that you need to automate and will make your employee life easier. Appointment reminders, alert within your company. So we work with Facebook Workplace. They implemented with Walmart, and not all their employees sit in front of Facebook Workplace. So the ability to send a notification that New Jersey office is now closed and have it reach every single company employee and have him be able to acknowledge that he received the message, and if he needs help, he can vote to ask for help, is a useful scenario. We've implemented with Staples, one-click button that enables an office administrator to order some supplies. I believe that at the end of the day, open-ended discussion within bots is still some distance away. We need to find very simple things that it will be useful to automate them. And then that exact interface that it makes sense, I agree with Kristina, it's more around, where is the user, what will be more useful to him. And contextual is, everybody's talking about contextual. Everybody's talking about omni-channel for a very long while. I think it's table stakes. It needs to maintain context and all that. That is more into the technology, and I think that will be solved. There is a challenge, though, with voice and context, right? Because if you're talking to the Alexa and you're saying, how many seats are there in the Yankee Stadium? And they say 400. And then you continue to a next following question. Many times with voice, it's hard for these devices to maintain contact. So there are some technology things that will be solved. So that's a very long answer to a few questions there. Want to add anything?
For me, the big question is, are chatbots just kind of the stepping stone towards smart, ubiquitous virtual assistants? So I think where I see the future moving is that we will all have, or we will all engage with our personal virtual assistants that will talk to us, but that we can also chat with while we are in a meeting or can talk because our kids are sleeping on our arm or whatever, or where we can even, engage in a regular website with them. But they will become ubiquitous. They will be in our living room, in our bedroom, in our car, on our watch while we are on the run. And they will become very personal. And that's the big reason why I believe that in many cases we will move away communicating with isolated one-on-one chatbots where one brand provides us with a chatbot, and move towards communicating with maybe brand-specific skills through virtual assistants, because it enables a whole new dimension of personalization. Because our personal ubiquitous virtual assistants will be able to learn about our needs, about our wants, about our preferences, about who we are. And they will be able to take those preferences into account when we then engage with a skill of whatever brand, or the virtual assistant itself. So this is kind of the view of the future that I have, and that I have in mind when our customers are moving into that direction.
Okay, so you talk about that we need to find the right use case, the right value, the right context for each interface. You talk also about making the advice contextual to the user. But still, we see here that most people don't use a voice-enabled device. So is there anything else that is missing there? Maybe people don't trust this interface?
So first of all, with all due respect to Israel, the market is adopting them big time. It will gradually get here because of some of it as language barriers, right? That the devices don't understand accents. So I think it's happening in the world in a very wide way. In the US, every home has like several of them. So those devices will come. My kids talk to their Siri all the time. I can't envision myself talking, and when I try, it never understands me because I have a thicker accent than my kids do in America. But I do think that is happening. So I don't know if there is a barrier by this room to adoption of voice devices. I think it is happening. They will become more and more useful the more functions it could do for our everyday life. So my appointment, your dentist appointment is coming, and I can, by my voice command, either acknowledge it or change it. All kind of very simple everyday tasks. The more it will provide me useful things to do with it, the more I will use it.
What about?
Maybe one of the things that, not necessarily for Israel, but yesterday there was a pre-networking event, and I talked with two groups, just one after the other. The first one was European, Germany, and I think also Switzerland based, and they were talking about privacy. What are we going to do? It listens to us, right? They know everything about us. We can't let that happen, and we need to block it. And then there were also discussions about, I'm willing to pay for a service if they don't collect my data. And I think I kind of proved them wrong, because I told him, let's take a very simple example like Pandora, right? Or Spotify in Europe. Like, the only reason we're using it is because it knows what we like and it plays what we like. So if it does not collect data on me, why would I ever use Pandora? And then when I finished that conversation, I had a conversation with US-based, one was a programmer and the other one has a retail online shop, and they were like, talking about the immense possibility of collecting data on the user in order to recommend with the relevant, maybe products that they would like to have, or maybe connecting them with them at the right time. because you have the data. So I think that there is also a little like different concepts. We also have another new regulations in Europe with the privacy, which would create a barrier for a lot of companies. And I think that on the one hand, conveniency is prevailing a lot in the US, and people are willing to give a lot more to get that conveniency, whereas in Europe we see people that are shutting down a little bit more. On the other hand, if we look back into cloud technologies, 5 years ago, everyone were like, no way, we're not going to put anything on cloud, right? And right now, when we're talking with some of the largest industry leaders in the US, the first question is, do you have a cloud solution? So I think that it's a matter of us also getting used to it and getting used to giving up on our privacy. Again, I thought that there aren't a lot of people, using those devices in Israel. I have to say that yesterday there was a meeting of people that are using it. There were a lot of people there. And again, voice is not just the Alexa or the Amazon. We're talking about the Siri. We're talking about Cortana. We're talking about the Google Assistant. So basically, even if we don't really notice it, we're actually using it also in Israel.
Great, and I think that Kristina was agreeing a lot, and
yeah. I feel like I'm a privacy officer, even though I'm not officially. Yeah, indeed, in Europe we're concerned about privacy, and in May we're getting the General Data Protection Regulation. I don't know if some of you heard of it, but it's about indeed making our privacy, with the company should be more privacy compliant. We indeed are very concerned about it. We're very concerned how Facebook is handling our data, how Google is handling our data. And then indeed comes into chatbots as well. And we also seen in our company that some people actually not use chatbots, not even necessarily voice interfaces, because of indeed the privacy question, especially when they are used on a Facebook platform. Some people think that their data is not being actually, protected indeed. And that's one of the reasons why I chose not to use chatbot at all. And we thought about it, and you actually want to move forward, and what can we do about that, right? We thought that one of the most important things here in this process is indeed to educate companies in the first place, educate business that these things are happening. People are concerned about privacy. You also have to educate users and tell users, explain them how the data is actually being handled. So this process, how the data the chatbot gets, should be indeed transparent. There's even another side of this, is that chatbot, in a way, in some cases, creates expectations for user that it's indeed human being behind the screen who is typing the answers and not a machine, a robot. And there are times when people are conversating with chatbots and they think there's a human behind it. So this is not just about expectations that are not met, but in a way it's actually unethical, because we allow people to spend, let's say, 10, 20 minutes communicating with the robot and them thinking that it's a human being. And I think that's important in this case is to do what I think can be called as privacy by conversation, privacy by design, when you're transparent about it in your conversation. So that in your conversation, you tell user how the data is being handled. You tell in the conversation that it's a robot, it's a chatbot. You create expectation that it's not human being, or in some other case that human being can be joined in a chatbot as well. But this process, primarily is transparent. And I think this is one of the important things that allow the users to release their fear about it and be more adaptive and more taking this technology in use.
Great. Our time is nearly up, so I just want to ask the audience another question. How many of you here in the audience are actually creating voice-enabled devices? Okay, so we have just a few. So maybe for the ones that, in favor of the ones that are creating voice-enabled devices and for the curiosity of the rest, maybe if you could give just one advice, top advice on what they need to take into consideration when creating such an interface?
It's my advice is don't think in isolated channels. Don't think about voice only. Think about how your consumers want to engage and really build a way that allows them to engage with you in a consistent way across those engagement forms. And when it comes to voice, obviously it's very important that, and we have heard that earlier with those, give them options, provide them options. So also with voice, it's important that you don't just, ask an open question and then get back, you get answers that you anyway would have never expected and can't answer, but also provide them at least example options so that they know what type of answers they can provide. And I think that's a very important topic when building such kind of applications.
I think Michal agrees with you.
Yes, I do agree. And I think I'll kind of maybe refine it even more. Try to define very well what are you trying to automate, what exactly is the task you're trying to automate. I absolutely agree that you, at this point of the technology, don't do any open-ended discussion. Be able to kind of say, your appointment is tomorrow. Do you agree, yes or no? Do you want to cancel it, yes or something that's very, very well defined in order to be successful. And I think that's it. Do you want to add?
Yeah, so actually from a different perspective, one of the things that we saw people doing at the beginning is trying to take the web experience or the mobile experience, so the graphic UI, and putting it into voice, which I think is a huge mistake, because when you're talking about voice, you're actually replacing a human being. So what we've been seeing is that we're taking the human being, we replace it with a website, then we replace it with a mobile app, and now we're trying to take that mobile app and bring it back into the human through that same path, instead of just saying, okay, let's take what the human was and try to create the voice interaction from it. So if you are building those interfaces for voice, try to think what would the other person would say. So if that bot was a person, if that was your banker, what are you going to tell that banker? How are you going to interact? What do you expect that banker to tell you back, or the travel agent, or the e-commerce person that is standing on the other side? So really try to avoid to take the graphic UI and put it into a voice UI. Build your own voice experience. Try to think what your clients are looking for. I would also be very, very cautious about aiming too low and providing, very minimal and basic stuff to your users. People are expecting more. There are ways and technologies to provide more. There was a research saying that 63% of people prefer to talk with a bot, so not with a human being. But 79% said that after experiencing one conversation with a bot, they don't want to do it ever again. So it means that people are ready to interact with bots. I think they do want to know it's a bot and not a person. We actually, at the company, we had just the opposite thing. So we had a real person talking to a customer on the other side, and that person was convinced that he was talking to a bot, and he actually called the office. I was like, I was talking to your chatbot. I was like, no, that's a real person. So just try not to aim too low, because the clients are expecting more. Technology allows you to provide more, and try to dare, right? I mean, I'm coming from the technology side, the vision side, trying to see how we can progress and bring it into the future. And I think that there are enough tools to do it. You're more than welcome to try our tool and see how this can help you. But there are also other tools that can help you do that today.
Great. I think our time is up. So thanks a lot.
Thank you
It was intriguing.